watching Channel Africa Conversations.
You know, every time you hear Nujoma speak, he speak with passion, but also you can't help but buy into that agenda. So, and he laid a solid foundation for our country, you know, in terms of peace, stability, and also had great dreams in terms of the future of the country.
Hello and welcome to Channel Africa Conversations. I'm your host, Peter Ndoro. Today we turn our attention to Namibia, celebrating 35 years of independence, reflecting on the legacy of its founding president and also looking ahead to a new era in leadership with the country seeing its first female president. Joining me for this discussion is Dr. Kaire Mbuende, who's a veteran diplomat, a former executive secretary of SADC, and a long-serving member of Namibia's governing party, SWAPO. He's a diplomat of note, and he offers a unique perspective of the present and the past as well as the future of Namibia. Dr. Mbuende, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and welcome to Channel Africa Conversations.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
So let's go back to 1990, a very special time for Southern Africa. Zimbabwe had got its independence 10 years earlier, and Namibia took then center stage 1990 ahead of South Africa. And at that inauguration, there were luminaries including Nelson Mandela and other presidents in Southern Africa, and also Margaret Thatcher and the UN Secretary General at the time. So it was a big event, a momentous time. Take us back to that time, what you remember, and what the hopes and the dreams were for your country.
Well, I think it was an exciting time in the history of our country. First of all, it was two groups coming together. If you want, separate or warring factions, if you want, even though political, but also militarily. And on the one hand, you have mutual suspicion, but on the other hand, you had a determination to work together and to make a success of the country. So we started drafting the Constitution, and at the time, everybody was predicting that this is going to be a long-drawn process. But it was concluded in a record time because of the willingness on all the parties to compromise, to accommodate each other, and to start working together for a common future. Key to that was a policy of national reconciliation, that we've had our differences, we fought, and now we are all Namibians and we have to work together as Namibians. I think that was key, and then obviously there are certain principles in the constitutions that gave comfort to everybody and to set a stage for developing the country now that we have established the political institutions and there is peace among our people.
We'll talk about Namibia's journey since then, but maybe we should start with this will be the first year that Dr. Sam Nujoma will not be present, as he's now been laid to rest after having lived a very long life that contributed immensely to the independence that Namibians enjoy now. Take me through your relationship, how you remember Dr. Nujoma.
Well, we have had long-standing relations with Dr. Nujoma, ranging from family relations, but also as people who looked up to him. First of all, it was like a mystical. Before I went into exile, we all heard about Nujoma, and eventually I went into exile and I met him. And he was very friendly, but determined and very inspiring. Every time you hear Nujoma speak, he speaks with passion, but also you can't help but buy into that agenda. So, and he laid a solid foundation for our country, in terms of peace, stability, and also had great dreams in terms of the future of the country. He was a person of, he came from a background of, big development projects. A lot of them did not materialize for a variety of reasons, but he was a visionary who always wanted to transform the country in a certain way, so that all the people of Namibia can have a decent life. And I think it was under his also leadership that the Vision 2030 was developed, where one would like to see Namibia as a developed industrial countries within a period of about 40 years after independence, which was a bit too ambitious, but an ambition that one had to live up to.
Take us back to the period before 1990 and his leadership of SWAPO and fighting for independence. Take us through that period of time. What was he like as a leader, as a struggle hero?
Well, I think Nujoma, since he started in the 50s, and he participated in the mobilization of the people within the country. Then he went into exile. There was a time when we pinned all our hope on the United Nations, and it was petitioning the United Nations because of our special history. But then we realized that, the independence would not be delivered by the United Nations. Therefore, organize an armed struggle. And we carried, under his leadership, the struggle on three fronts, which was the armed liberation struggle, political and diplomatic. He traveled the whole world, mobilizing support, both political, material, and as well as military from different countries, and also to make sure that the people at home are engaged in the struggle, defying the system. And so he was something extraordinary. And he worked hard, he lived and dreamed the struggle, and was involved at all levels, from the diplomatic to the military to the political mass mobilization.
So the SWAPO that became and has led Namibia, would you say that he was instrumental in its shaping its ideologies and its culture?
No, definitely. He was instrumental in forming the ideology and the culture, but obviously, like all other leaders, you don't work alone. You have a team around you that is helping, and he has had some good people who work along him to make sure that his leadership becomes successful.
And then came independence, 1990, with all these great expectations. Do you think that he was able to deliver on the dreams that Namibians had during his time?
I think his time was really one of consolidating national unity, reconciliation, and to have people feel that they have a common purpose. And I think that he succeeded. He laid a solid foundation where everybody felt that, yes, we belong to this country and we can work for the future of this country. And then obviously we also know that, the issue of poverty, the issue of unequal distribution of wealth and opportunities had to be addressed. And some policy were introduced, the affirmative action, for example, policy was introduced where you try to promote what we call previously disadvantaged, and citizens of our country to get access to opportunities that they didn't have in the past. So a lot of that has happened, but it's still work in progress. Inequality remains a challenge within our country, and so is poverty also remain a challenge. And these are the issues that we have to address square on as we move forward.
So then when people talk about legacy, what would you say would be his greatest contributions and his legacy?
Well, I think, first of all, there is nothing that much independence. And his greatest is to lead the struggle and to be the first president. That means that we'll say father of the nation. And also the achievements that we made as a country in terms of coming together, in terms of coming up with a constitution that we did, and laying a solid foundation for economic development and social harmony. I think those are his greatest legacy.
And then Namibia, I think you've given us some clues already that strides were made, but a lot of challenges remain. 35 years on, is Namibia today what you thought it would be in 1990?
No, I think Namibia is a different country than it was in 1990 in every respect. And one has to know that you are talking about different categories here. You have had a process of urbanization where people are moving from the rural areas to the urban areas, and therefore putting pressure on infrastructures, housing, and all those. So that is one side of the problem. But otherwise, we have also had a lot of advancement in the field of education, access to health, and so forth. So it's a work in progress. Tremendous strides were made in various fields. If you look at the number of graduates, we have today, and 1990, when we came from exile, we're just a few of us, who had certain level of education. Today, it's different. And those days, if you see a statement written or released by SWAPO, you could guess who wrote it because it was clear it was a certain individuals, and you could. But today you have young people who are highly educated in all fields. So I'm proud of what we have seen in terms of the development, especially human resources. There are still challenges because sometimes we develop skills that are not in demand in the industry or in the market, and there are certain skills that are lacking. But on the whole, you have had good progress, but we still have those challenges that we can talk about going forward.
It's a momentous time for your country, history being made and a new era of leadership with the country seeing its first female president. Take us through that and what this means for Namibia. Well,
apart from people talk about being the first female president, but it's really Taste Kaire of SWAPO, who has been involved in the liberation struggle and who have been involved in leadership position. And what has characterized her is to be more hands-on and to be a team player. She has been a team player, and wherever she went, whether it's leadership of ministries. She has always been able to mobilize the people for the common objective. There is a lot of enthusiasm about her about her coming into the scene as a leader of the party, and of course, the leader of the government. Her own passion and compassion, caring for the downtrodden, and which are just, you can move from a value system that our country need to embrace and to a very ambitious agenda of social transformation. The useful lesson that we have learned over the last 35 years is that why didn't we achieve the level of growth and level of development that we desired? And our analysis is showing that yes, there is a need for more deliberate actions in terms of transformation of the economy instead of leave it to the market. The market, yes, plays an important role, but you need a more deliberate action and intervention by the state to stimulate the economy. Now, the question of natural resources, diversification of the economy, and we have been talking about these things, but now we have to come to a point where you actually would demand from investors that these are the terms under which we would like you to operate in our country. And I believe that with little diversification of what we have, that can make such a big difference to the economy without really maybe new investment, leave alone the mobilization of new investments, new opportunities that are coming on stream, such as oil and gas. And so it's an exciting time. But the first thing is you preserve your gains, the gains of our independence, and then build on that. And building on that, you can even build on the existing investment, and you just diversify that so that it can create more jobs and generate more income.
Former President Thabo Mbeki spoke very fondly of her, saying that he remembered her as a little girl. Do you have memories of what she was like during the struggle when she was much younger? And what characteristics do you think she displayed then that has set her up for this big job now?
Well, I met her, is it more than 50 years ago in Zambia. And of course, having heard about her because she was involved in the SWAPO Youth League in the northern part of the country, and we were involved in the SWAPO Youth League in the central around Windhoek. And so we knew the comrades on the other side. But when we met for the first time in 1974, and we were living in the same house, and obviously also working together as a youth, she has always been a leader. And this leadership started even much earlier, from the church as a 16-year-old, from the Girl Guides. And she has always had leadership positions throughout her life from an early age. And as a youth, as a member of the Youth League, of course, we were given different assignments. She was in the Deputy Chief Representative for SWAPO. I was working in information. And even though there was no hierarchical structure in terms of who is who, she always took the lead. And sometimes, I recall the house we're staying was a bit crowded with many of us. And if we need to discuss certain things, she will invite you, say, let's go for a walk. And then you go around. This is now in Lusaka, I think it was Libala. And, so she has always played that role of inspiration, taking initiatives. And therefore, and up to 1990 then, and then 1990 she was a first Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, and then moved on to make a career being Minister of Gender, Women Affairs, Tourism, Information, and of course International Relations, which is also a strategic ministry in itself, working closely with the presidency and representing the country and projecting the image of the country to the outside world. So we have seen coming, but for those of us who, I would say, grew up with her, we sort of took it for granted, and we're just, collegial. And then when she decided to run for this office, she called her friends and colleagues like myself and said, listen, I want to go on this road, and I want you to work with me to make sure that I'm elected first at the level of the party and then at the level of the government. And so we did and worked together with very, very down to earth, but very strong views and very, 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 very ethical and fair person, and very consultative.
And I have no doubt she's going to bring a lot of these qualities to her governance. SWAPO has gone through a challenging time, the election perhaps closer than you might have thought. So she's got a lot of work to do in terms of re-energizing the party, installing more confidence in a generation of people that probably don't remember the struggle and don't remember 1990 all that well. What are we to expect for SWAPO and for Namibia as presidency in the coming terms?
Yeah, let me say that, obviously we did not expect the result that we got. We thought we'll do better than we did. But also at the level of the party, she created some enthusiasm, because there are a lot of people who became despair. And then all of a sudden, they are coming back and they say that, well, there's a new excitement about her leadership. So the challenge is to meet those expectations, because there are very high expectations from all sectors of our society. From women, youth, and as having started her career as a youth league, she has a very close relations with the youth, and was able to mobilize the youth. Even though people talk about generational differences, if you look at the votes that brought SWAPO to power last year, it's predominantly also youth votes, which is the majority, even though, of course, the youth is a large group and they vote for different parties. But it's not that the youth decided SWAPO as they being portrayed. I think the challenge is to meet the expectations, to meet those challenges head on. The level of inequality, it's a big challenge. Level of poverty is a big challenge, but they all come down to growing the economy. And if we can succeed to grow the economy, it's when we're able to release resources to address the social issues. And one cannot go into details in terms of what strategy is going to be pursued, but the mobilization of resources for development, it's a priority. To see to what extent can we get maximum contribution from the private sector, a maximum contribution from our civil society, non-state actors, and of course also foreign direct investment in different forms than maybe we've had this far. So I think she looks at nation building and development as a collective project where all the resources of the country must be mobilized, human and financial. And let's face it, we did not get the best out of all our people, and because sometimes they just feel a bit indifferent, and therefore, she has been able to energize communities, the white community, the German-speaking community, the young people, professionals, artists, athletes, and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's really a question of how do you get the economy to grow faster than it has been. Because even the years when our economy was doing well, we're talking about a 6% growth and maybe 7%. And that was enough to maintain the system, but it was not enough to expand services. And therefore, you needed a much higher growth than that. Even the best growth we have had in the past, in the 90s, was not even good enough. It was good enough to maintain the system, but not good enough to substantially reduce poverty, to create more jobs. And the population was smaller. Population is now 3 million plus. And therefore, with a larger population, is greater challenges. But I believe that, and she says that Namibia is too rich for its people to be poor, and we are too few to be poor also. So it's an issue of governance and leadership to transform our economy and to make a difference in the life of our people. And that is what she's promising.
And perhaps finally, talking about leadership, might we see you in cabinet?
Well, I think that's a question that I will answer in 2 days' time. But I can assure you that, yes, from wherever I will be working closely with the president to make sure that after having worked hard to get her elected, now he's working hard to make sure that she succeeds in her mission of transforming our countries and eliminating poverty.
Dr. Mbuende, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much indeed for joining us on Channel Africa Conversations, and we wish you and the people of Namibia the very best.
Thank you very much for having us, and thank you for interest in our country. We are neighbors. We are bound together by history, geography, and therefore we have a shared future, and working together, it's a great thing.
Thank you so much. And that's how we come to the end of today's edition of Channel Africa Conversations. Thanks very much indeed for tuning in. And a reminder before we go that we'd love to hear from you. And we'd love to get your comments and your thoughts on our social media platforms. And they're on your screen now. And you can start with this one straight away. So what do we want to know from you? What you think of the program? What kind of conversations you'd like us to have? And with who? So drop your thoughts and your notes on our social media platforms, and we'll certainly start to make sure that these conversations are the kind of conversations that you want to hear. All right, until the next time, take care.